back in my day when I was doing it, it wasn't too dissimilar in terms of the time frame. It still takes, let's face it, the best part of the year to compete from start to finish. The beginning of the year, depending on the year, roughly anywhere between 15 and 30,000 people enter from around the world. It's an English-speaking competition, of course. We've got a taped competition for the non-English speakers, which must be an absolute nightmare to judge. Imagine trying to work your way through that. And you progress through all the different levels until finally, in my case, back in the old way of doing it, you got to the point where you represented your country or your region, and you then travelled to the US and you competed in a rest of the world final. And if you won that rest of the world final, then 3 days later, and some of you were there, you then front up to the world final, which is you representing the rest of the world versus 8 Americans. No, be fair, at least we were invited to this World Championship. And it's a fairly rare thing that someone from outside North America actually manages to win it. In fact, in its entire history, it has only been won 5 times by people from outside North America. 2 of which are Kiwis, 2 of which are Australians, so we're kind of all in together really, and 1 lone Irish woman. Obviously it was a mistake. And then the really bizarre thing is that 1 Australian, 1 representing Australia, and 1 Kiwi, me, 1 representing New Zealand. And then we had a Kiwi representing Australia win it last year, whose name escapes me at the moment. Was it? Mark, that's right.
Mark Hunter.
Mark Hunter. I've met Mark. Mark's in a wheelchair, and that's not really fair, is it? You know, you can't go into speaking contests already disabled and getting the sympathy vote. I didn't have any of those sorts of advantages. So Mark won representing Queensland, and that's where he lives, and he's a lovely man. I've had the opportunity to meet him. And then, of course, we had our own David Rutledge, who's actually in Australia, from South Australia, who won representing for us. So it's all worked out quite nicely. We can claim 2 each, no matter how you look at it. So, the interesting thing about competing in the World Championships is that, first of all, it's a grueling process, and some of you have gone through it or gone through various stages of it. It's a difficult process to work your way through. Most people, when they arrive at that World Championship, their best speech is behind them. Because most of us have 1 really fantastic speech in us, and the hard bit is coming up with 2 more that get you beyond that, because you've got to change it. You can't use the same one all the way through. So most people go to that World Championship and their best speech is behind them. And there they are in the United States. And the United States, as you know, is the mecca of public speaking. The United States is to public speakers what South Auckland is to car thieves. Anyone from South Auckland? Those of you sitting next to those people, just check. Can't be too shy. And the profile that Toastmasters has in the United States is remarkable, really. We don't realise it. We're very much under the radar here in Australia and in New Zealand. And I live in Australia now. I live in Melbourne. Who's been to Melbourne? Yeah, it's a fantastic city. It really is. I love living in Melbourne. Entire population staring at the orange juice in the refrigerator because it says concentrate. I'm one of the smartest people. I'm an idiot here. So it has a remarkably high profile. Bill Clinton, the former president of the United States, is himself a former Toastmaster. Did you know that? He set up a Toastmasters club in the governor's office when he was the governor of Arkansas back in the 80s. Presumably he wanted the staff to have better oral skills, I think. Anyway. I'm warming you up for the humorous. I don't want to be seen to flip-flop on the issue. It's been a very difficult last couple of years for me, and I've spent many a sleepless night on the couch in the old office, contemplating my sins. I let down my nation. I let down my family. I let down my zipper. And I want you to know that I know what I did was wrong. I know now that sex is not the answer. Sex is the question. From my experience, yes is the answer. You often wonder, don't you, how much more effective President of the United States Ronald Reagan might have been if he'd had the opportunity to go through some public speaking training, like Bill did, like I did, like all of you are doing. Do you remember Ron? Those of you who are old enough, he'd come out to his press conferences at the height of his powers before the assassination attempt, the early 80s. Every press conference would be the same. He'd come out and do this. Hello. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please? I was asleep. You know, it's hard, it's difficult, it's demanding, but as I was saying to my second-in-command only yesterday, Nurse, I said, we have to grab this bull by the tail and look it squarely in the eye. So you might be wondering, having gone through all of that process, and you're all familiar with it, what does it mean to be the world champion in public speaking? And the answer is, not a lot. It's not like Miss Universe. Some of you may have noticed this. And you don't get $250,000 in cash, you don't get a year's supply of free makeup, you don't get a brand new Ford Mustang or anything like that. All you get is a Perspex trophy, in my case, which is about yay high, and the base fell off. And a pat on the back, recognition. In the same way that you get recognition for anything you did. For example, who here has had some form of tertiary education? Oh, there's a surprise. So, what did you do at university? Yeah, or Polytechnic or wherever?
Engineering.
Engineering. Bachelor of Engineering?
Electrical.
Well, let's not get complicated. That's why we don't have interaction very often, isn't it? So, if for example, and paraphrase here, if you did a Bachelor of Engineering, you get the letters BE after your name, you're entitled to that. If you did a Bachelor of Commerce, you get the letters BCom, so on and so forth. A Bachelor of Law, you get LLB after your name. If you do Masters, then it becomes MCom, ME, MA, whatever, and so on and so forth. Right? That's the way it works. It's recognition. Who has been honoured by the Crown? Has anyone appeared in the birthday honours list? You're sort of tentatively putting your hand up. What did you receive? Sorry, the what?
The Women's Suffrage Medal.
The Women's Suffrage Medal. So you would be entitled to have what?
No.
WSM or MWS or something like that after your name if you wanted to. Look, give her a round of applause. I'm doing everything I can at the moment to make sure that my wife qualifies for the Women's Suffrage Medal. Just doing my bit to help out. Has anyone else been honoured by the Crown? Any knighthoods in the room? So, Dennis? Still waiting? Pack a lunch, won't you? So, for example, if under the old system, if you're a member of the British Empire, you got the letters MBE after your name. Under the new system, it's the Order of New Zealand, I think, so you get ONZ or NZO. I can't quite remember which way around it goes. The knighthoods, it used to be a KBE, I think, or a KBMGP Malak. I think they're largely interchangeable. That's it. You see, it's recognition in the same way that I get recognition. So, as the world champion of public speaking, I'm entitled to the letters WC after my name. Disappointing. But the one thing that you do get to do as a world champion is you get to meet other world champions and world record holders. It's kind of like a club. And we run into each other. And whenever you run into each other, you just automatically swap notes. And I don't mean world champions of public speaking, I mean much, much broader than that. People like Ian Thorpe, Kieran Perkins, I'm lucky now to have met, Stephen Bradbury, the Olympic gold medalist in speed skating, for example, the guy everyone else fell over and he skated through. Yes, but you should see the story behind that, getting to the fight. Things like that. So you meet these guys and you get the chance to sit down and you swap notes. And you discover there are certain things that you have in common. 4 things, in fact. 3 of which pretty much everyone in this room already has. And one that might surprise you a